It's the Bolt Action 3rd Edition week here at OnTableTop, and with a comment, you could win one of 3 Battle of the Bulge starter sets. We will pick 3 winners, one from the YouTube comments, one from the comments on OnTableTop.com, and one from our Cult of Games members. So you guys get an extra chance to win.
Hello everyone and welcome to 3 Colors Up. In this one we're going to be painting one of the new plastic Fallschirmjäger for Bolt Action 3rd Edition. This one obviously is in winter garb like the Americans are in the new 2-player starter set. So we've had a look at uniform, put them all together. We've got a nice STG in there. So we're going to show you how to do weapons and show you what the winter uniform looks like. Talk a little bit of colouring and kit layout and stuff like that in this one as well. So hope you enjoy it. Sit down, relax, and let's get painting. So let's talk about our Fallschirmjäger fella here. Obviously late war, because that's what the new Bolt Action box set's all about. So we have our STG. He's in a nice little running pose, sort of half running pose. We have some magazine pouches here, which I think are the wrong ones. I have a feeling I've put the wrong ones on it. I think. I can't tell. I can't remember. Ah well, doesn't matter. So he has his STG. He's wearing this parka and trouser combo here. These are reversible. So they would have splinter camo on one side or a plain green on one side and then white on the other, and they were reversible so you could wear them inside out or right way around, whatever. He's got a M43 field cap on. That's going to be in the Luftwaffe kind of blue, the blue-grey color. And apart from that, he's just wearing all the regular equipment of a regular German soldier. He's also got these boots on, which are suede boots. I believe these are sort of ankle boots that have a gaiter on them, or have a... They're not quite like the American buckle boot. They're like a sort of just above ankle boot, and then they have a gaiter that they wear over the top of that. But with these trousers being so large and baggy, they're sort of covering that. So to keep this nice and simple, what we've done is primed the model in Brainmatter Beige. That's the Army Painter spray primer. And as I mentioned in the American painting tutorial, it didn't matter so much for the American, but it was more important for the German, and you're going to find out why right now. Because we're going to handle this two-piece suit, and I want to do it as completely white. In the demo army, I've mixed it up a little bit. Some of them are inside out, some of them are the right way around. So for our white uniform, we're going to start with a Army Painter speed paint called Holy White, and that's just going to be put onto our palette, and we just need to give basically the entire model, apart from his hat and his face and that, a nice coat of this. So let's make sure we can thin it down a little bit more than that and work that into all the detail on his uniform. With the speed paint down on the uniform, all we're really looking for is a little bit of a griminess to it, and we've got that along with a little bit of shading as well. So from here, we're going to move on to our webbing, and for that, we're going to be using this brown. Sorry, because I just called it Brigade Brown, but it's not Brigade. I looked at the pot there and I went, actually, that's not the name. So this is a nice dark brown, and we're going to be using it on the Y-straps and the belt, mainly because the Fallschirmjäger had 2 different types of webbing they could have access to. You have the regular black leather, which is for, you see most of the time the Wehrmacht and the SS and stuff like that wearing, but for whatever reason, the Fallschirmjäger were also issued with a brown webbing, so we may as well stay on theme here and just start painting in the brown. Now it is going to look quite dark anyway, so it's still going to look dark enough to stand out very nicely on the white uniform. With the brown down on our leather, I've also went ahead and done the felt covering on the water canteen. that's fine, don't worry about that, because we're going to do this leather strap in black later on, and this little cup is going to be in a sort of grey, just to make it look like the equipment's a bit mismatched. We'll also do a bit of grey here. So we're going to move on to the other iconic colour of the Fallschirmjäger, and that is going to be our field blue. And for our field blue, we're going to be using Army Painter's Wolf Grey, because it's just a very, it's very close without needing to do anything special with it. And once we have a bit of a, once we have a bit of a shade down on it, it will look pretty much spot on. So for this, we're going to go with our field cap. And because, again, Fallschirmjäger had special equipment, the bread bag is also going to go in our blue as well. Mainly because it's just something that changes things up a little bit. We can talk about that maybe another time. But let's get on with this here. And what I'm going to do is there's the eagle on the top of the cap. And what I'd like to do is paint around that and leave it in Brainmatter Beige. Because it would be a white fabric cloth or fabric patch, and if we leave it, then we don't need to do it with anything else. Bear in mind, we are doing this for an army, we're not doing this for display or anything like that. We're just trying to get our forces painted. So now we have the blue down on our field cap and onto our bread bag as well. It's time to move on to a few other little bits and pieces. And for this, first off, we're going to use some Monster Brown. And this is going to be for the magazine pouches. I need to shake that up a little bit more. Sorry, that'll probably be fine now. In fact, I might just shake it a bit more than that. Settled a little in the bottle. That looks better. So yeah, the magazine pouches are definitely the wrong ones on the model. That's my fault. They do have proper STG magazines, but we're just going to have to deal with some MP40 magazines instead. So maybe this guy just lost his, perhaps. Again, these came in several different colors. You would have had brown, blue for the Fallschirmjäger, and a sort of a field green as well. But I think the brown is just a nice little extra tone that we can add to just break up the large solid colors on the model and just give us a bit more visual interest from our good old gaming distance. With the Monster Brown down, we're going to move on to another color, and that is going to be Uniform Grey. And we're going to use this on some of his personal equipment on his back. And for example, if we had a miniature that had the helmet, we could do the helmet in the Uniform Grey as well. Or we could, I'm trying to think of where I was going with that, or we could also paint it in the blue if we thought about it. So we're going to paint the mess tin. And we're also going to paint the cup on top of his canteen as well. Basically now we have all the base coating done on our uniform elements, bar a little bit of black here and there. So we're going to move on to a shade, and for this we're going to be using the same military shade that we used in our American video. So let's put a few drops of that down there. Now we're not going to be shading the white of the uniform. We're more going to be tackling the stuff like the webbing, the boots and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is just use that to shade down everything that isn't the white parts of the uniform. And then from there, we're going to move on probably onto the skin, hair and the weapon, because I like to do those separately with these. So let's see how we get on with this, and we'll move on. So now we have the wash down everywhere. We can see what sort of work it's doing for us, and it's looking all right. So we're going to start on the weapon, and the first coat of that is going to be Hardened Carapace, a very nice dark sort of grey colour. It's such a good bottle. I haven't even opened it yet. Great. I didn't realise that before I pressed record. So let me just pull the top off of it, and I'll just take a brush. That's way too much, but there you go. It's on the palette now anyway. This is going to do for my darker leather, as well as the main color for the gun itself. So let's just get some of that together. So for the darker leather, it really is just this one strap on the water canteen. So do you know what, I'll do that later. It's harder to see further away from me. We'll start by just base coating our STG. It looks like we might need a couple of coats of that. And we're doing this now because the skin is going to be the last thing I want to do. And I don't want to mess up too badly here. So we'll get this base coat down. With the black on our STG now painted in, we're going to move on to our nice dark brown again. This is going to be for the leather of the sling, as well as his hair, because we haven't done anything with that yet. I think actually we still have that on the palette too, so that'll be handy. So let's get in there and paint that up. We'll probably also just use it for the little bit of wood that's showing from the stock, but there's not much showing, so it doesn't really matter so much. With that brown now down, so we have the sling, we have a little bit of the woodwork on the STG, and we have his hair done in a dark brown as well. Now we're going to move on to shading the weapon, and for that we're going to use just straight up dark tone. So we'll put a little bit of that onto the palette. This is just going to be for the weapon, so let's just quickly chuck that on there. And that includes the sling, of course. Again, we want to be careful not to stain the uniform. And the reason I've done it this way is because I really wanted the difference between the weapon and the person carrying it to stand out a little bit more. So everything's a little more subtle on the man himself, whereas the gun is quite definitely looks heavier and darker because of the processes and the paints that we've used on that. So it's just a little way I like to try and separate things out a little bit. Plus it means the weapon sort of fades into the background a little, but against this sort of stark, bright uniform, it's still very present and still very obvious as to what it is at a glance. So with that down, we're going to move on to the skin. And like in the American tutorial, we're going to be using Dorado Skin for that. It's a lovely skin tone. Put that down. Make sure there's a little bit of water on the brush. Make sure it's nice and smooth. And then we can start, we'll start up on the face because we have wet wash down here around the hands. So make sure that we get a good coat onto the face before we move on to the hands. With the wash down on the weapon and the skin also painted in, it is now time to move on to our final step, and that is going to be to wash the skin and the hair down. And for that we're going to be using Strong Skin Shade. So as you can tell, there's a fair bit of crossover between the color choices on the German model as well as the color choices on the American model. Really, it's only a couple of differences or additions here and there. So let's get on with it, and let's start up here on the face. And once we have this down, it's going to be a case of taking the model away, giving it a matte varnish, and then doing the basing on it. And the basing is going to be done in the same way as the American miniature was as well. So a bit of wet mud effect mixed up from Green Stuff World. Mix that with some dark brown pigment. I believe it's burnt umber pigment that I use. Bit of that, a couple of grass tufts from Army Painter, and a little bit of snow effect. That's going to be a Citadel snow effect. So we're going to go ahead, finish this off, and when we come back, you'll see the model all finished and ready for the army. With our matte varnish dry and our basing done with that nice little white base ring there, because as I said before, it's winter, may as well look cold, our Fallschirmjäger is now complete. And I think For a job that is to match an army that is being used for demoing, I think this is absolutely fine. Of course, there's plenty more detail we could go into. We could start highlighting the gun up, we could start adding little metal details here and there. But overall, what we have is a good, solid miniature for our demo army, and it will fit in very nicely with the rest of them, because we have 23 others that are sitting ready to go for our filming, our Let's Plays. So, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I enjoy painting stuff like this a lot, as you guys know. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. I like painting this stuff a lot. So, again, thank you for watching. Take care, stay safe, and see you again very soon.
It's the Bolt Action 3rd Edition week here on OnTableTop, and with a comment you could win one of 3 Battle of the Bulge starter sets. We will pick 3 winners, one from the YouTube comments, one from the comments on OnTableTop.com, and one from our Cult of Games members. So you guys get an extra chance to win.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.